question that many people ask, and there are a lot of discussions on social media, on YouTube by speakers and other people. And what I found was that there's a lot of confusion around this topic from a classical fiqh perspective. And also in my counseling work with couples for the last 10-15 years, a lot of couples, because they may not have discussed this issue properly in an open and transparent manner, after the marriage, after 6 months, 1 year, things begin to arise and confusion arises, and there's disputes and discourse within the couple, within the marriage. And this issue is about financial rights. This is a huge topic within Islam and fiqh, and scholars have discussed this in various different chapters of fiqh, and various different books have been authored by classical and also contemporary scholars. But there is a notion, unfortunately, which is increasing within the Muslim community, in particular social media, and a lot of people say that his money is my money and my money is my money. And a lot of sisters who work 30-40 hours a week, they assume a inaccurate position within fiqh or within Islam, that if they are working and it's a mutually agreed upon thing that they do between themselves, then they don't have to contribute anything in their house. That's not entirely accurate. That's not precise. It's not something that scholars would entirely agree with, the way it is fashioned, the way it is termed on social media. And there are unfortunately also brothers who falsely misunderstand the position within fiqh, that if the wife is working, the brother makes it obligatory upon her to contribute. Now that's not entirely correct or entirely inaccurate, and inshallah I'm going to briefly go through some of the positions given by the classical scholars and contemporary scholars. This needs a long discussion, and an article inshallah I'll be publishing soon. Now we know the Islamic position is that it is obligatory, is a duty upon the husband to provide for the wife and the family. And there are many evidence in the Quran and Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. In fact, it's a consensus among classical and contemporary scholars. This is shar'an, or textually proven. What that means is that the husband is obliged. If he does not, then he would be accountable in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, الرِّجَالُ قَوَّامُونَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ, that husbands are providers and maintainers of the family of their wife because of what they spend on the family and their wife. So Islam has given the role and responsibility to the man or to the husband, the right to spend on the wife and the family, and is made it obligatory upon the man or the husband to do so. And there are many verses and a hadith that scholars cite to prove this obligation. Generally, obviously, we know that women are allowed to work in Islam. During the time of the Prophet ﷺ, women worked. Even in the Quran, there are stories, narratives that are mentioned that women worked. So the point of this discussion is not about to say women are not allowed to work. They are, as long as the scholars mentioned there are certain conditions that are met, then it's perfectly fine. The question is more, or discussion is more precise, more detailed. So if a wife works, what are the stipulations given by the Sharia or the fiqh? So to begin with, as I said, it is obligatory upon the husband to provide. That's the asl, right? That's the default position. And many scholars, they say that the default position of the wife is to nurture their home, right? To take care of the children and nurture the home. But obviously, Sharia provides the default position, but life is not, life does not work in a linear fashion. There's circumstances and the context and individual situation that the fiqh relies upon. And the scholars have given the ijtihadat classically in the fiqh books and also in contemporary times. The main point to raise is that the husband is is the maintainer, the protector, the provider, also a leader within the family setting. And scholars have discussed, various different topics about, okay, the wife is working, what are the consequences of that when it comes to maintenance or nafaqa. As I said, it is obligatory upon the husband to provide the nafaqa. If she is working, what are the consequences or ramifications of that? Did they agree prior to the aqdun nikah? Did they agree prior to the marriage? And if they agreed, what are the consequences? If they did not agree and after marriage she works, what are the consequences? And if they don't agree, he doesn't agree, then what are the consequences? So scholars discussed these issues in various detail in the classical fiqh books and also contemporary times. The first point on this particular issue is that if a man marries a working woman, a woman who's been working prior to the marriage, and they agree that she will continue to work after marriage, there is no disagreement among the scholars that she can continue to work, and there's nothing in terms of nafaqa. He should continue to provide her their nafaqa. The other point to mention is that, okay, if that is the case, then is he allowed to prevent her from working after marriage? And scholars have given different opinions on that. The main thing obvious to mention is that a relationship between husband and wife should be based on mawadda and rahma, compassion and mercy and empathy. The legal books, the fiqh books, they talk about dry legal matters. They're important, but in a marriage there has to be mutual understanding. There has to be sacrifice, mutual sacrifice. Sometimes the wife may give 80% in the marriage and the husband may give 20%, or vice versa. Sometimes the husband may give 20% and the wife gives 80%, right? So again, the main thing is to consider mutual respect, empathy, love, compassion, understanding, and being transparent, open, and communication. And things change. You may agree something at the beginning of that marriage, later on things change, right? Yes, it's important to have a contract, right? Very, very important. But as our circumstances evolve, there has to be mutual understanding, mutual empathy towards each other, right? And the scholars, they based the understanding of nafaqa. So what are the, if you like, reasons or the causes of nafaqa? So some of the scholars they mention is that they use the term ihtibas, where the wife is wife remains within the house, right? She takes care of the husband, remains in the house, and because of that, the nafaqa is presented. Nafaqa of housing, shelter, clothes, food, the essentials of life. There are different opinions among the scholars about some things beyond that, but the essential must be provided, right? So some scholars said is ihtibas. Some scholars said is taslim wa tamkin, right? Again, a similar concept, that she remains within the house and fulfills the rights of the house and the husband. Other scholars, they also mention istimta', right? Again, these are different kind of ijtihadat of the scholars. Ibn Hazm, for example, another opinion said, no, the cause of nafaqa is the actual act, the nikah or the marriage. There is no disagreement among scholars that the husband it's obligatory upon him to provide for their wife and the family. And as I said, this is textual. So the first group of scholars, they said that when it comes to the wife working, right, and if they both agree, right, and she continues to work after marriage, then he has no right to prevent her from, or he cannot stop her from working, right? They also mention that if the wife is fulfilling a fardul kifaya, some of the scholars mention, right, becoming a doctor or things that are necessary for the society, right, he obviously cannot prevent her from working, because we need female doctors and other positions to be filled within the society, within the community, for society to function, right? They also discuss about having a contract. Now, can a wife stipulate in her marriage contract that husband cannot prevent me from working, right? And there are different opinions among the scholars. Some scholars say, this is an invalid kind of stipulation. Some scholars say is valid, and they have various different discussions and proofs. These are ijtihadat, by the way, right? And both groups, they give their reasoning from the Quran and Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when it comes to the contract, there are generally three opinions among the scholars. They say that the shart or the condition is invalid, however the contract is valid, and this is according to the Hanafi school and the Shafi schools. The second opinion is that the condition is valid according to the Hanbali school of thought, right? So there is no harm in the wife stipulating a condition within that school. The third opinion is that the condition is valid, but it is disliked, and this is according to the Maliki school of thought. He is not obligated, the husband is not obligated within the opinion to fulfill that. It's desirable that he does so. So again, scholars have discussed this in detail, and the reasonings that they have given are mentioned in the classical fiqh books and contemporary fiqh books in detail. Now, there's another topic or discussion that if the wife is working, there is a discussion among the classical scholars and contemporary times, and this has been discussed in the various fiqh councils around the world. Does she need to contribute towards the house, the bills, and so on and so forth, right? And there are different opinions among the classical scholars. The first approach, or the first school of thought is that, and this is the, if you like, majority, that if the wife is working, they both agree and whatnot, then it is not obligatory upon the wife to contribute in the household chores, because the Sharia obligates upon the man to provide for their wife and their family. But this position, which is a majority position among the kind of mutaqaddimin, the earlier scholars, this does not mean that it will be prohibited for anyone or wife to contribute towards the household chores, bills, and so on and so forth, right? The second position is the position given by some scholars, and in particular Ibn Hazm. They say that if the wife works and she earns, he's earning, she's earning, and she's going out to work, 30, 40 hours, however long, right? And she's earning, then it is obligatory upon her to contribute to the household chores, the bills and the food and the clothing of the children and so on and so forth, right? And he provides textual evidence from the Quran and Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The third position is that it is not obligatory upon the wife or working wife to contribute, but it is from the makarim al-akhlaq, or it's good manners, good morals for the wife to help. So, and some of the contemporary scholars, they have even mentioned that, and even classical scholars in particular, that the wife should contribute, right? Not half and half perhaps, but depends on the amount of time or amount of hours that she spends working away from their house, away from their husband and their family. So some of the contemporary scholars, and in fact I believe some classical scholars, they discussed that the maximum that a wife can contribute, and those who say that she should contribute, the maximum that a wife can or should contribute is 1/3, and 2/3 is the responsibility of the husband. And the other position among the scholars is that the wife participate in the family expenses relatively and proportionately between the husband's income and the wife's income, or the estimation of the percentage with which the wife will participate will be left to custom and kind of and context. So urf and custom plays a big part in this, right? Other position is that the wife shares in proportion to the cost of the household in terms of expenses required by her job or her working outside, such as employing a maid, for example, or nanny for their children, or excess expenses for her clothing, transportation, and the likes. The point here is that it is not as straightforward. There are nuances, there are contexts and circumstances that needs to be looked at. Right now, coming back to nafaqah or the maintenance, as I alluded to before, that if the wife is working, right, and some scholars say if you get permission, then there is no consequence in terms of her, contributing, meaning she does not have to contribute. Some scholars say regardless, right, whether permission or not, right, then she should contribute, right. So when it comes to nafaqah or the maintenance, right, if the wife is working, some of the scholars, they mentioned that she has forfeited her right to claim nafaqah from the husband, right. The other opinion is that she has not forfeited the right of nafaqah from the husband, as I said, if the wife or if the husband give permission to the wife, right. Now, there are also scholars, they mentioned that, okay, if he doesn't agree and she goes out anyway to work, and is she considered, or she's considered a nashiza, or someone who is kind of creating friction within the marriage. Scholars also have given discussions on that. So the point of this discussion, brothers and sisters, is to educate, right? This is only an introduction to it. I would encourage you folks to go in the fiqh books, and these are discussed in the chapters of nafaqah, in all of the madhahibs, in contemporary times also. I wanted to open up this discussion because I've seen even scholars and speakers, they're not very nuanced when it comes to these issues, right? And a lot of problems and confusion happens within the marriage, right? Again, as I said, these are legal discussions, and if we only rely upon legal contracts and rights within the marriage, then it becomes dry, it becomes problematic, right? The contract or the legal issues are important, but what is more important, right, is that the husband and wife, they communicate, they are honest, they are transparent, right, and they share in their responsibilities, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given clearly in the Quran and Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam what the husband should do, what the wife ideally should do. Now, some people might assume that, okay, if the wife is working and she contributes, doesn't that go against the essence of qiwama? Because according to the Quran, according to the classical and contemporary scholars, that qiwama means that it is his responsibility to provide, and by default that the husband, right, is the leader within the family setting, not as a dictator, right, takes shura, but leads the family. Now, some may argue that if the husband is obligated upon him to work and provide for the wife and the family, but in this situation, those who say the wife who is working should contribute, if she contribute, doesn't that contradict or conflict with the essence of marriage or qiwama, that the husband has that responsibility and that role, and by default he has that responsibility of leadership within the family setting, right? Well, the point here is that it doesn't, in my opinion, right? And according to those scholars who say that she should contribute, right? But also because the scholars also discussed about nuances and complexities and circumstances, right? They discuss about how long is she away from the house, or how long is she working for, and depending on that, is the tamkeen and tasneem, and is the ihtibas, is it complete or incomplete, right? They discuss all of these things. The main point to understand is that I'm not particularly promoting a particular opinion here. I'm just relaying in a very brief way what the fiqh says, what the classical scholars have mentioned and contemporary scholars mentioned. What I would advise brothers and sisters who are getting married or looking to get married is find a marriage counselor. Ideally, as I mentioned in my last video, someone who's got a Sharia background as well as got some psychology and counseling and background. So you can discuss these issues and find an amicable way forward. Because there are many sisters who, they have to work, right? It's not that the husband says you have to work, it's that living conditions, right? High expenses, right? Living in the Western countries, for example, is one income sometimes is not sufficient. And scholars also factor that in. Those scholars who say that it is not obligatory upon her, the wife, to contribute. Some of the scholars they mention, for example, in the Hanafi madhab, Imam Kasani mentions that if the wife works and he is not able to work, say he is not able to work, right, for whatever reason, right, and he can't provide. Even some scholars mention that that's grounds for divorce, right? And if she does not want divorce, right, and she contributes, right, because he is not able to work for a period of time, then that's a debt that he owes her. And then when he is able to work after, he has to repay that debt back to her. According to those scholars who say that she is not obligated, it's not obligatory upon her to contribute. So there are so many nuances, brothers and sisters. I hope that this discussion was beneficial, inshallah. As I said, there'll be more videos and there'll be a detailed article on this published soon. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.